Hello team. Can I start by saying how great it's been to spend some time with you all on Sunday evenings? I hope you found it interesting and encouraging too. Today we're continuing our journey through Paul's first letter to the church in Thessalonica. We've gone through chapter 1, where he gave thanks for the church's faith. Chapter 2, where he described his own ministry among them. Chapter 3, about how he longed to see them but got reports from good old Timothy. Chapter 4, where he talked about how to live a life pleasing to God and brought comfort for those grieving. And it's in this context that we come to this fifth and final chapter with our minds prepared for talking about the next step. Let's read 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verses 1 to 11 from the NIV. Now, brothers and sisters, about times and dates we do not need to write to you, for you know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly, as labour pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. But you, brothers and sisters, are not in darkness, so that this day should surprise you like a thief. You are all children of the light and children of the day. We do not belong to the night or to the darkness. So then, let us not be like others who are asleep, but let us be awake and sober. For those who sleep, sleep at night. Those who get drunk at night. But since we belong to the day, let us be sober, putting on faith and love as a breastplate, and the hope of salvation as a helmet. For God did not appoint us to suffer wrath, but to receive salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ. He died for us, so that, whether we are awake or asleep, we may live together with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as, in fact, you are doing. Now, I'd like to reflect on this in 3 parts. 1. What is the day of the Lord? 2. I'd like to contrast children of light and children of darkness. And 3. Let's put on some armour. So, let's get going with the day of the Lord. When this place, Har-Megiddo, will become very important. Most people agree that this is talking about Jesus' second coming. We get Jesus' take on this in Matthew 24 and 25, but make sure you don't read it late at night, or you'll have some very bad dreams. We get more information from Revelation, particularly chapter 6 and especially verse 16, which is a whole book that should come with a parental advisory sticker. There is a definite timetable to the end of the world. We don't know it exactly, but we know enough to recognize signs as they appear in history. One big one happened in 1948, when Israel became a nation again. This was one sign that we can recognize, and which means we should be watching the news for some others. I do not know when Jesus will return, so I need to live my life as if he's coming back tomorrow, which he may be, and plan as if he will wait for another 2,000 years. As Christians, we should never be complacent or rest from fighting the good fight. I love how William Blake puts it in his lovely, if unhistorical hymn, Jerusalem. I will not cease from mental fight, nor shall my sword sleep in my hand, till we have built Jerusalem in England's green and pleasant land. All this talk of fighting and swords brings us to the second part of the passage. Behind me you can see the cave where the first of the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. They were copied by a Jewish sect called the Essenes. They lived in the desert in a place called Qumran at the northern end of the Dead Sea, which is how the scrolls survived for millennia in clay jars. A key teaching of the Essenes was about being children of light, not of the dark, which is why, when this building was built to house the scrolls at the Israel Museum, it was designed to enshrine that teaching. For us, in 21st century England, we're simply being told to reflect the light of Christ, in the same way that a child reflects their parents. We're also being warned that those who do evil are reflecting the darkness of Satan in just the same way. As Christians, we can shine that light into dark places. We can be, as Jesus said, the light of the world by reflecting the light that shines in the darkness, but which the darkness could not overcome. Finally, did you guys spot two pieces of Paul's armour of God? He gives a fuller teaching on it in Ephesians 6, particularly verses 10 to 17. But here we find that in the battle to be children of light, we're directed to think about a breastplate and helmet. In Ephesians we learn that the breastplate is that of righteousness, and here we see it comprising of faith and love. By living in faith and love, we will put ourselves in a right relationship, righteousness, with man and God, which will protect our central and essential beings from the darkness which would seek to corrupt it. The helmet of salvation is the other piece which marks us out for Christ. The helmet protects both our brains, which is the seat of our minds, and designates our allegiance, as surely as did the helmets of the Roundheads and Cavaliers. God gave us protection for the coming judgment. More effective than any breastplate or helmet is the salvation from the coming wrath, which comes uniquely from Jesus Christ. There is no other way to be rescued from what is inevitably coming. There's no other name under heaven by which men may be saved. Christ alone is our only hope. But what a hope he is! Not a vain or tentative hope, like what one might feel going into an equally matched sports event, but a firm hope, like the hope that I have that I will be paid for doing work for my employer, or like the hope that I will have clean water when I turn on the tap. Hope which has been tried and tested and is built on the firmest of foundations. Thus I know that when Christ returns, whether in my natural lifetime or after, that he will take me home to live in his presence. And that is an edifying and encouraging thought that I joyfully share with you. And, I hope, with Paul, that you would share with other people around you while there is still time, to build them up in the same way. God bless, and see you this evening.